Sexual violence impacts millions of Americans. Every 98 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted. A common statistic is that 1 in 6 American women are victims of sexual violence. I've been doing this work for over 15 years, and that statistic has fluctuated throughout the years. At one point it was 1 in 3, it's been 1 in 4, 1 in 5. We know that this statistic is based off of reporting and that not many people are reporting. There are a number of factors for this, and we're going to talk more about these victims and why we're not hearing their stories. So we've certainly been given a very particular image of what someone who has been sexually assaulted looks like. The primary portrayal that we're given of a victim looks a very particular way. And the truth of the matter is, all of us are impacted by sexual violence. And a lot of the challenge, or a lot of the problem that comes from us only seeing one type of person that is generally targeted for rape is that we are invisibilizing everyone else. And when everyone else gets invisibilized in that way, when they are told people like them, this doesn't happen to them, it just further reinforces this idea that it must have been their fault. They did something wrong. Also, in terms of our other marginalized communities, pretty much anyone who is a member of any community that's marginalized in some way, we're already told that we are less than, that somehow we deserve that. And so when you think about what your resources are, who you're going to reach out to for help, there are 2 things happening simultaneously. One, your own internalized oppression. So basically all the things you have learned in your life growing up in this culture about ways in which you are not enough or not good enough or don't deserve things or whatever that is, that comes into play. And so you yourself are immediately saying, I shouldn't have done X, Y, and Z, or I am less than this young, white, able-bodied woman that is constantly portrayed, and so I don't deserve the kind of help that's available. The next thing that happens is, if that is not your immediate response, or once you get past that immediate response, what are your options? Who do you call? Well, we're taught that you call the police. But for the vast majority of us who are in marginalized communities, and I'm thinking really specifically right now of people of color, particularly Black communities, and the LGBTQ community, the people we're supposed to call are not people we're used to having help us. This is where a lot of intersectionality comes into play. I've worked with a number of women who were undocumented, or whose family members were undocumented, or who did not speak English as a primary language, and you are not reaching out for help if that is the situation. And a lot of that has to do with our racism, with our anti-immigrant stance, with our classism, just the ways in which lower income communities are denied access to resources. And so a lot of times people ask me, what can I do to help stop this? What is the solution? I think one of the most important things we can possibly do when we are talking with people who have been victimized by this crime, or sitting with ourselves, the first things that as educators, as counselors, as activists, as supporters that we do is to remind people, or to let them know for the very first time, this was not your fault. It was not your fault, and you are not alone. And I almost feel like that should, no, I 100% feel like that should not have to be said, but it does. Because we have all very deeply internalized this idea that if something bad happens to you, it's somehow your fault. And it is not. It is never your fault for something someone else has done to you. And some of it is direct engagement. The way that those of us are involved in rape crisis centers, or go do educational presentations, or whatever that might look like. But a lot of it can really just be about whatever issue you are interested in. Are you really right now very, very interested in the wall that we're evidently building around Mexico? Work on that. Does that help victims of sexual violence? Yes. All of this is interconnected, and elevating all of us and giving all of us equal opportunity and access to resources helps across the gamut. You don't need yourself to be responsible for ending sexual violence. None of us can be responsible for doing that on our own. And there are those of us that really do direct engagement, like this little video. But there are many of us where our issues and our passions lie elsewhere. Don't think that you're not being helpful. The most important thing is to be engaged.